G20 is a gripping political action thriller set against the backdrop of a fictional G20 Summit, a global assembly of world leaders. The narrative unfolds as President Danielle Sutton of the United States arrives at an upscale compound in Jakarta, Indonesia for the annual summit. She is accompanied by her teenage daughter Maddie and a select group of Secret Service agents eager to tackle the weekend's agenda of high-stakes diplomacy and negotiations. However, just as preliminary discussions commence, disaster strikes. A well-coordinated assault by a heavily armed paramilitary faction posing as local security forces shatters the event's safety. The compound falls under siege as communications are severed, dignitaries are taken hostage, and security measures fail. Leading the assault is a charismatic leader, Omar, whose motives appear both ideological and personally driven against Western nations and global power structures. In the chaos, President Sutton is swiftly separated from her entourage, forcing her into a survival situation. After a close encounter with the insurgents, she takes refuge within the compound, relying on her previously classified military training while desperately attempting to rescue her daughter, who has been captured by the attackers. With the U.S. military unable to respond promptly due to severed communications, Sutton is propelled into a fight for survival, both for herself and for the other hostages. As the insurgents tighten their grip, they issue demands to the world, leveraging the kidnapped G20 leaders for their agenda. Omar's rhetoric critiques imperialism, corporate malpractice, and social inequities, revealing a personal vendetta against the very policies of the nations he now holds captive. In her quest to resist the insurgents, President Sutton displays resourcefulness as she navigates the compound's hidden areas. She forms unexpected alliances with fellow survivors, a jaded summit aide and an Indonesian security officer who managed to avoid capture. By pooling their knowledge and skills, they strive to locate Maddie and devise a strategy to liberate the hostages. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., the president's cabinet and military strategists work frantically to evaluate the escalating crisis. The vice president receives updates on Sutton's predicament and her daughter's kidnapping. Preparations for a potential rescue operation take shape, but significant diplomatic hurdles arise. Concerns about the ramifications of U.S. military intervention linger, with several G20 nations wary of exacerbating tensions or provoking international condemnation. The tension mounts as President Sutton battles against time and formidable adversaries to protect her daughter and fellow leaders while grappling with geopolitical stakes that could alter the global landscape forever. In the film's gripping climax, President Sutton embarks on a daring rescue mission, showcasing her bravery and resilience. Despite the risks to herself, she bravely exposes her position while liberating a small group of hostages from their insurgent captors. Her courageous actions help to win over skeptics, bolstering the morale of her supporters and undermining the resolve of the attackers. Sutton's leadership is highlighted not only through her role as a commander-in-chief but also as a mother and a soldier, embodying strength in the face of adversity. As the tension escalates, Omar, the insurgent leader, becomes increasingly erratic as his plans begin to deteriorate. His second-in-command starts to lose faith in his violent methods, suggesting that their mission has deviated from its original intent. Internal discord among the insurgents starts to weaken their solidarity, giving Sutton a tactical advantage. She capitalizes on this disarray by sending a covert message to her daughter Maddie through hijacked surveillance feeds, encouraging her to remain resilient and await further instructions. With nightfall bringing heightened tension, President Sutton infiltrates the compound's core, ultimately leading her to Maddie. Her journey is fraught with peril as she narrowly dodges traps laid by the insurgents. In a fierce confrontation, she faces off against Omar in a brutal fight, managing to overpower him just as he activates a countdown for a secondary attack designed to obliterate evidence and eliminate the remaining hostages. In a race against time, Sutton collaborates with an Indonesian officer and the remaining agents to disarm the explosives and disable devices that impede communications. Their efforts culminate in the timely arrival of reinforcements, allowing them to successfully evacuate the remaining hostages. Despite being injured, Omar is captured defiantly. The film concludes with President Sutton emerging as a beacon of strength and resilience in the aftermath of the harrowing events. In a poignant press conference directed at the global community, she emphasizes the importance of unity, accountability, and a critical reassessment of the international systems that contributed to the crisis. Maddie, now safe and secure, watches her mother with admiration. The weight of Sutton's experiences resonates in her powerful message: diplomacy must be fortified by courageous action, and true leadership must carry the burden of responsibility. As the summit approaches, President Sutton receives a briefing on upcoming bilateral meetings and critical agenda topics like energy, global security, and international economic reforms. In contrast, sinister operatives disguised as contractors and security personnel quietly initiate plans for an assault. Suddenly, chaos ensues as armed insurgents invade the compound, taking delegates and staff hostage while jamming all communications and seizing control of security systems. Within moments, the summit transforms into a battleground. Sutton's security team attempts to evacuate her, but a well-coordinated ambush separates her from her daughter Maddie, who is captured amidst the chaos. The conflict places Sutton in a troubling bind between her maternal instincts and presidential responsibilities. Along with her lead agent, Sutton escapes capture and seeks refuge in the compound's maintenance levels. While hiding, she assesses the situation and learns that the insurgent leader Omar has commandeered broadcasts making demands for the release of political prisoners, withdrawal of foreign troops, and a public denouncement of corporate exploitation by Western nations. His charismatic speeches aim to incite unrest and propagate his ideology. In Washington, the vice president, military advisors, and intelligence officials frantically analyze the escalating crisis, debating the authorization of a military intervention. Some members advocate for caution while others warn about damaging global credibility through inaction. The proposal for a rescue mission faces legal and diplomatic hurdles. As time ticks away, President Sutton's fate hangs in the balance. Amidst the chaos in the compound, Sutton forms a fragile alliance with Rizal, an Indonesian security officer who evaded capture. Together they strategize to gather intelligence, avoid surveillance drones, and disrupt the insurgents' communications. Meanwhile, Maddie remains composed as she and other high-ranking officials are held hostage, demonstrating the resilience her mother has instilled in her. Sutton's military background becomes evident as she improvises weapons, scours enemy positions, and sabotages enemy systems. She uncovers that Omar's faction is notably larger and better equipped than anticipated, suggesting the involvement of inside assistance. Upon capturing an insurgent, Sutton learns of a broader conspiracy that extends beyond the summit itself. Working with Rizal, they find a secure access point to the surveillance control room. After executing a meticulous strike, they regain control over several cameras and radio frequencies. Sutton successfully sends a brief message to a nearby U.S. Navy unit to inform them of her status and request tactical support. In a crucial development, she identifies the building where the hostages, including Maddie, are being held, heightening the urgency of their mission. Tensions rise among the insurgent group as Omar's deputy Karim becomes increasingly wary of Omar's shift toward more violent tactics. Initially, Omar portrayed himself as a revolutionary, but his methods escalate, culminating in threats to execute hostages to compel world leaders into compliance. This growing division within the insurgent leadership creates an opening for Sutton, who is determined to rescue her daughter Maddie. Using stolen gear, Sutton skillfully infiltrates the hostage area under the cover of darkness. Her mission is to create chaos, so she plants explosives on crucial structural supports. When the explosions occur, they serve as a diversion, enabling her to break into the detention wing and successfully rescue several prisoners. However, her joy is short-lived as she learns that Maddie has been relocated by Omar to a different location where she is being held as leverage. The successful rescue sends shockwaves throughout the insurgent ranks, prompting Omar to react with rage. He tightens security and devises a drastic plan to detonate the compound's reactor core, intending to obliterate evidence of his actions and eliminate any remaining world leaders. Sutton, realizing the catastrophic implications of this plan, understands that she must act swiftly to prevent disaster. As tensions escalate, Karim confronts Omar about the impending mass execution of hostages, voicing his opposition to the extreme measures. The confrontation turns violent, with Omar ultimately killing Karim to solidify his control and further entrench his radical ideology. His declaration indicates a transformation into a figure who views his actions as martyrdom rather than negotiation. Meanwhile, Sutton discovers Maddie confined in a high-security room rigged with explosives. Collaborating with Rizal and the remaining U.S. agents, Sutton frantically disarms the traps with mere seconds to spare. The emotional reunion with her daughter fills Sutton with determination as she prepares for the final confrontation with Omar. In a bid to assert control and broadcast his message to the world, Omar retreats to the main chamber of the compound. He seizes the live broadcast feed to deliver a speech justifying his actions and outlining his goals, further polarizing the situation as the clock ticks down to the impending threat of destruction. With time running out, Sutton braces herself for the ultimate showdown against the insurgent leader, determined to thwart his catastrophic plans and save her daughter. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.